The dying autumn leaves paint the perfect picture of our current times, but let not the apparent death overshadow the emergence of new life behind the veil. For in the winter, the spirit of the earth wakes up. Today's topic is pathogens, materialism, and the spirit of fear. 2020 was a crazy time, and the pandemic was one of many recent events that seem to divide the world's population like a knife, or like the double-edged sword coming out of Jesus' mouth in Revelation 1:16, the sword of Matthew 10:34 that divides the sheep from the goats, pitting father against son, mother against daughter, and so on. Maybe this division, sinking some further into materialism while awakening others to hidden realities, was an unintended consequence of the pandemic agenda. Or maybe the pandemic was timed in order to quell an inevitable pouring of spirit, planned by the heavens to flood all nations around 2020, waking them up from the materialistic slumber. Maybe the coronavirus, Latin for crown poison or even halo poison, was actually a countermeasure to this otherwise unstoppable awakening. But these are just interesting thoughts. Some other interesting thoughts were given by Rudolf Steiner about 100 years ago concerning the nature of bacteria and how to counteract them. Bacteria, in this sense, can be taken as an umbrella term for all pathogens, since the idea of viruses hadn't been popularized back then. The following is an excerpt from a compilation of Steiner's lectures called On Epidemics, taken from rudolfsteineraudio.com. I'll put all the relevant links in the description.
In the 13th century, people said that illnesses came from God. And in the 15th century, they said that they came from the devil. Later still, they thought that the humors were the cause. And nowadays, they are the result of bacteria. Thus have people's views supplanted one another over the ages. Fears conform to popular trends. The fear to which people succumb nowadays closely resembles the medieval fear of ghosts. This is our present fear of bacteria. These two states of fear are objectively the same. Ideas during the Middle Ages were in keeping with their time, just as our ideas nowadays befit our time. People in medieval times had some belief in the spiritual world, and so, of course, they had a fear of spiritual beings. In modern times, we no longer believe in the spiritual world, so our fear is directed toward physical beings, be they ever so small. Dependence on authority, dread of ghosts, and fear of bacteria. Whatever the age in which one lives, one must be especially skeptical in respect of the authority prevalent in that age. Without spiritual insight, one can make serious mistakes in this regard. This is especially the case in one particular field of human culture, namely in the field of materialistic medicine. Here we can see clearly how there is increasing dependence upon whatever those in authority consider to be the standard, so that far more dreadful things can result nowadays than were brought about by the much maligned authorities of the Middle Ages. We are in the midst of this already, and it will become ever more pronounced. When people mock the medieval belief in ghosts, one can but ask, quote, "Are things any different today? Is there any less fear of ghosts nowadays? Are not people afraid of many more ghosts now than they were then?" Close quote. Things are far worse now than anyone can imagine. Think what must be going on in the human soul when we are told, quote, "There in the palm of your hand you have 60,000 bacteria." Close quote. Scientists in America have calculated the number of bacteria present in a single mustache. Surely such a thing ought to persuade us to say those medieval ghosts were at least respectable ghosts. But today's bacterial ghosts are altogether too diminutive too unsuitable to be regarded with such fear, especially as this fear is now only in its early stages. For it will lead to a dependence on authority in the field of health, which will be truly dire. Bacteria are mostly intensively nurtured by a materialistic mindset. Today we shall be dealing with the fact that bacteria can only become dangerous when they are nurtured and cherished. Bacteria are most intensively nurtured when human beings take nothing but materialistic thoughts with them upon entering into the state of sleep. The best way to nurture bacteria is to enter into sleep with nothing but materialistic ideas in mind. From out of the spiritual world, the I and the astral body then work down into the organs of the physical body, which are neither the blood nor the nervous system. Going to sleep in a materialistic frame of mind is the very best way to nurture bacteria. Fear of epidemics provides the best habitat for bacteria. Actually, there is at least one other means that is as effective: to live within a seat of epidemic or endemic diseases, and to absorb only the case histories by which one is surrounded, while being entirely filled with a sense of dread concerning these illnesses. This is just as effective. If we can bring nothing up out of ourselves except fear of the illnesses which surround us at the seat of an epidemic, and if we go to sleep at night filled with nothing but thoughts of this fear, then we create unconscious replicas, imaginations, which are drenched in fear. And this is an excellent method for nurturing bacteria. But if we can reduce this fear even by a small amount in our everyday work, if, for example, in caring for the patients, we can forget that there might be a danger of becoming infected ourselves, then without a doubt we also reduce the nurturing care we lavish on the bacteria. Spiritual thoughts make all the difference. Much more could be done than anything put forward against bacteria nowadays by materialistic science. Hugely more could be contributed to the future of humanity if only one were able to put forward ideas which might turn people away from materialism and encourage them toward an active love for the Spirit. It is essential during this century for knowledge to be propagated about the spiritual world and about how that world is so very relevant for our physical life, how it is profoundly significant for the physical world, because we do indeed spend the time between going to sleep and waking up in that world, whence we continue to exercise influence over our physical body. The force of healing has to work through community. We shall have to get used to the idea that something can be seen in the healing force of spiritual science must begin to work through the human community. What would be the point if upon going to sleep an isolated individual here and there were to enter into the spiritual world with positive thoughts about that world, if he were surrounded on all sides by others who, with their materialistic thoughts and feelings and fears, which are always linked with materialism, persisted in caring for and nurturing the world of the bacteria?
Thanks for listening if you made it this far. So what do you think? There are for sure some interesting parallels he made between the fear of ghosts and the fear of bacteria, and that last part about a potential countermeasure against infection being spiritual knowledge or even a simple lack of fear. That part might even correlate to some of our own experiences in the past 5 years. Let me know in the comments what you think. As always, we'll finish with the Bible. Revelation chapter 2 verses 10 to 11. Do not fear any of those things which you are about to suffer. Indeed, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison, that you may be tested, and you will have tribulation 10 days. Be faithful until death, and I will give you the crown of life. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. He who overcomes shall not be hurt by the second death.